This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Liverpool 0, Fulham 1, another Anfield outing, another defeat, and Liverpool failing to threaten the opposition goal once more. Mario Lemina, the man to sink the Reds, with even the top four beginning to look beyond them. Welcome to the Debrief Live here on the Blood Red YouTube channel. I'm Clarke. Theo Squires here with me. Theo, what do you make of that? I suppose just as you begin to think Liverpool's season has hit new depths, it seems to sink even further.
Let's talk about sex. Shocking, wasn't it? Just what we've seen from him in the last weeks, months. Confidence is gone, and it turns out it doesn't matter which players you put out there. Liverpool will struggle to break teams down. There was a bit of a brighter finish if we want to try and find positives out of it. It's just the defence is being so deep against Liverpool. There's no luck there. They're not getting spaces. There is that doubt there. Like we saw Sadio Mane air kick it, didn't we? One of the recent games, and he had a chance when one's come in and he's done it similar today. There was that low cross from Robertson right at the death. Or how many times in the past 2-3 years have we seen the fullbacks put that cross in and Liverpool get on the end of it and they score? How many times have we seen late goals? And you just don't believe that Liverpool can produce that at the moment. How much of it is injuries? Like the front three, granted, they've not been refreshed much this season, but they've had refreshed today. Jota's in there, Shaqiri's in there. They did have shots, but did we really think at any point that there was going to be a goal there? That Liverpool's best chance was probably that Jota volley from the edge of the box. And even then, that's one where you think was a lucky cross that's fallen to him. It's a hell of a hit, but the keeper will be disappointed if he's beaten from there. And it's just the way this season is going. Liverpool have fallen apart. And top four's gone just because the way they're playing now, the form is dreadful. And you look at who they've got left to play. They don't have to play any of the teams above them. It is all the teams below them, the teams that are going to do what Burnley did, what Brighton did, what Fulham have just done. And if Liverpool can't beat them now, well, on paper, it should be a nice run of results for them, a nice run of fixtures for them to turn it around. It's what it's coming unstuck against at the moment. And it is grim reading. They're just going to have to try and turn it on in the Champions League. Hope they can go all in the way in that if they're going to stand any chance of qualifying for the tournament next summer, next year. But yeah, it's just grim for Jurgen Klopp, grim for Liverpool. And they've run out of answers. You can see the disappointment on their faces as they walked off here.
We'll get into the performance in a bit, but let's talk about that Champions League qualification then. It seems like no more than a pipe dream right now. Looking at the table, 10 games to go for Liverpool, 10 points off second place Leicester. Manchester United and Chelsea, of course, still to play this weekend, but Chelsea could move 10 points clear. Chelsea could move 7 points clear. They would be in fourth, and Manchester United 8 points clear, even if they do lose the Manchester derby later on today. With 10 games to go, is that now too much of a gap to make up?
Yes, it is, I reckon, just because Liverpool's form's gone. Whilst they could potentially turn it around and have a strong finish to the season, they're not playing these teams above them. So they're not going to have the opportunity to take points off them. It is out of their hands completely. And while on paper, I suppose teams could collapse the same way Liverpool have done, but they've seemed to all have a bit more about them. It hasn't been devastating as much when they've had the injuries, when they've been out of form. Liverpool are the ones who have suffered the worst, and that is not an excuse for Liverpool that they haven't been good enough. And you've just got to say at the end of the day, they don't deserve to finish in that top four. Like Manchester City have been the best team in the league by an absolute mile. Leicester, we've praised them in moments. United, we've praised them in moments. Chelsea, Spurs, all had good spells. Everton and Liverpool, they had an all right run at the start of the season where they weren't at the best. Without Van Dijk, they were still getting a few results. And it started to have a little wobble in December. Everyone felt a bit more positive because they battered Crystal Palace 7-0. And then since then, there's been, 2-3 bright days. It's not just a bad run now. It's just this is how Liverpool season is going. And it can't be it's a run results that they can turn around, because we're talking about this being 3 months long now. That's a significant proportion of the season. To then turn it around and undo it and finish in the Champions League, it's too much of an ask for any team.
Well, it's 12 points from 14 games now in the Premier League, which is half of the amount of games that Liverpool have played this season. We're into March, Theo. It's a year since fans were last inside Anfield, and in 2021, bar a penalty, Liverpool can't score at Anfield.
Yeah, it's a big concern, and what makes it even more interesting is they've still got the leading goal scorer in the Premier League, but they never look like scoring at the moment. I had to send Trent on today to get a bit more quality from the crossing areas. Nico Williams was getting a lot of the ball. He was putting in some decent enough chances. They just weren't going to Liverpool men. And if teams are getting so many bodies back, Liverpool don't have that aerial dominant threat in attack who can get on the end in the air, really. And because defences are so deep, they can't get in behind them and get in those low crosses that we've seen Liverpool thrive with for the last couple of years. And it's just one of those where they have run out of things to do. One of the biggest problems Jurgen Klopp has faced this season is when they lost Virgil van Dijk, they tried to carry on playing the way Liverpool played with him. And they haven't been able to replace him. No one can replace Virgil van Dijk. Like the way he can start an attack from the edge of his own box. If the defence is defending deep, Liverpool can just sit on the ball. They've got that faith in Van Dijk to spread it around as like this deep playmaker, this almost a quarterback role, and brings teams forward to create that space. And it lets them play a high line. But Liverpool don't have any other players who can do it efficiently. Like we saw today at the other end of the pitch, how many times did Lookman get in behind the defence? How many times are you thinking, oh, that's a dodgy offside? That could be a big chance there. Liverpool got lucky that it was only 1-0. And it's more than one player and it all falls apart. But it's just they've run out of answers and they don't know what to do to turn it around. Before Van Dijk signed, I think Liverpool did have a slight tweak to the system when the defence was so leaky, when they'd only have sent one full back forward and they'd have the other one, sometimes Joe Gomez, acting like a third centre-back. And we've seen them try that against Sheffield United, against Everton, and it's just too similar to what they're doing now. It's like, well, change of system completely today for the end of the game. That's not doing it. When you've got so many bodies back, you can't break them down. Liverpool have just run out of answers.
How much of a worry is it then that this is a squad-wide issue? Because Jurgen Klopp made 7 changes from the defeat to Chelsea coming into this game. He threw in the likes of Shaqiri, the likes of Naby Keita, Diogo Jota also started. Wholesale changes at the back as well, but there were a number of attacking players come into the side that people have sort of been saying might be the answer to this goal drought at home. And our colleague Ian Doyle said, looking at the bench, it's really the first time since the first few weeks of the season that you can say that Liverpool had a strong bench. Alexander-Arnold, Jones, Thiago, Fabinho, Mane all on there, as well as the likes of Divock, Origi and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain as well. But 3 shots on target through the course of the game, and probably fair to say, Theo, I know you've mentioned the air kick from Sadio Mane, he hit the post as well, but Liverpool never really looked like scoring. Watching the game, there wasn't really that confidence that actually Liverpool were going to break through.
No, what made Liverpool so good for so long is they had confidence and faith in themselves. No matter what the setback, they would find a way to win. And this isn't just unique to Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool. This is the club's history right the way back to Shankly. Like, Istanbul's the most famous example, isn't it? It was that never say die attitude. But none of those teams had to do it without fans. And it sounds like a tired excuse because every single team's got to deal without the fans. Every single team is going to struggle, but it has stung Liverpool worse. And it seems almost that giving them the fans back at Christmas time and then taking them away again, it sort of made it even worse for them. But yeah, they just don't look like threatening. It's just they've got one set way of playing. And it's worked so well. There's almost that arrogance there that they haven't needed to find an alternative because it always delivered. It always did the job. And when you're not able to have that plan B because you've not needed it, they're now in a situation where they need a plan B, they need a plan C or whatever, and they don't have the players there to put it into action because the squad is, when they're in a situation where they need to make changes, like for like. Maybe it is just fatigue, tiredness, intensity from games, and it's caught up on them. But if you look at it and you just don't think they're going to score, like Sadio Mane's looked a shadow of the player we've seen for the last couple of seasons. Jamie Carragher mentioned it on commentary. Mohamed Salah, well, he had a couple of half chances, and you think, well, he did normally score them. Like, he's still the leading goal scorer in the division, but how many of them have been penalties? Jota had glimpses, half chances. Like, it's just one of those where attacking players do need runs of games, but they need confidence as well. It's the informed, confident striker will score every game. They'll score chances. They can miss 9 and they'll still score that 10th chance. But when you're out of it, and it's so many of them lacking confidence and out of form, it's going to fall apart. And it's just happened all at the same time for Liverpool. It's no surprise that they're in this rut, that they're not turning it around. You're just wondering, when is the next goal going to come from open play? Never mind when the next win's going to come from.
Yeah, I think it's got to that stage, hasn't it? And I suppose maybe the penny had dropped a little while back, but you're mentioning fans then. Last time fans were inside Anfield, of course, it was for that crucial Champions League game with Atletico Madrid. The way it's going, that when they return, Liverpool were on the verge of securing a Premier League title. The fans were denied being inside Anfield for that. And now when they return, might not even see their side in, I say, the Champions League, the rate it's going, even European competition.
Yeah, it's very surreal, isn't it? Like, you think there's going to be this new European competition next year, Europa Conference League. Liverpool could realistically find themselves in that. It's just at the mercy of the teams around them now, that some of them lose points to each other or they drop off. Injuries maybe take hold of them. Like we said, Leicester City have a couple of dodgy results, but they've won this weekend. It's just one of those where Liverpool have got to find a way to turn it around. But we're saying this every week now, and it's not happening. The one positive, if they're not in the Champions League next season, is they can focus on the Premier League and go again. But we've used that excuse so many times before now. Liverpool was supposed to be beyond this situation. They were supposed to be reigning Premier League champions, world champions, European champions. This was supposed to be the start of a dominance era for them. They're supposed to be replacing Manchester City as the it team, the team that everyone wants to play for. That's why you're seeing them linked with Mbappe, Sancho, Haaland, Alaba. And now it's a struggle. Just like, I know Jurgen Klopp's come out and said, if they just want to play Champions League, I don't want them here. And then it's, if these players don't want to stay because it's Liverpool, I don't want them here. But if you're really in that situation, you're going to say, oh, Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, right, you want to play Champions League football, you're going to go. But these players, there's only so many times they stay loyal. And you can accept a season out of the Champions League if you're still challenging for trophies, if you still see a bright future here. But Liverpool have got a number of players where it's their peak years, and they'll be thinking about big money contracts or how many more trophies they can get before it's that gradual decline. And that's why Gini Wijnaldum's future's up in the air. It's just, how can Liverpool turn this around? Like, you put Virgil van Dijk back in that team and you get fans back in that stadium, you hope everything's okay. But I think we're getting to the stage now where there's by no means guaranteed. That front three has been so good for so long. Maybe it is just now the end of the magic. Year or two ago, Jurgen Klopp said this Liverpool team needs another year. They had that year. They won the Premier League title. Now the wheels has come off for that team. It's whether they can get the magic back or if it is time to replace it. And if you can start a new team, but that's a big ask in the summer, considering you've got the coronavirus pandemic, the financial ramifications, and bringing in players that are quality enough to take them forward again and put them right back in the mix with Manchester City.
Yeah, of course, next up is RB Leipzig in the Champions League, and then a run in the Premier League that sees the Reds go to Wolves, to Arsenal, and then at home to Aston Villa before a trip to Ellen Road before the end of April. Well, the well seems to have well and truly run dry for Liverpool right now. Goals and wins at Anfield scarce and not to be seen in 2021. But stick with us here on the Blood Red channel. Coming up, Jurgen Klopp's post-match press conference. He will certainly be asked where things are continuing to go wrong and see if he's got the answers. Liverpool certainly don't right now on the pitch. But from myself, Guy Clarke and Theo Squires, thanks for your time and your company. It's bye for now.
This is the Blood Red podcast from the Liverpool